Hello everybody, and welcome to That Bit. This week the top 10 crazy facts you didn't know about the sitcom Cheers. Cheers holds a very special place in TV history. Not content with being the most watched sitcom of the 80s, it was one of the most popular TV shows of the decade, period. Against all odds, it maintained that popularity and quality throughout. To this day, Cheers represents a gold standard for sitcoms. Cheers finished a lowly 77th in the ratings after its first season in 1982 to 1983, performing poorly against Simon & Simon and Too Close for Comfort in its 9 p.m. Thursday time slot. Both Paramount and NBC believed in the show, however, and their tenacity certainly paid off. Cheers ended after 11 seasons, but only because Ted Danson decided to call it quits. It made household names out of its stars: Woody Harrelson, bartender Woody, Shelley Long, waitress Diane Chambers, George Wendt, bar patron Norm Peterson, John Ratzenberger, mailman Cliff Clavin, and Kelsey Grammer, psychologist Dr. Fraser Crane. Sometimes you just want to go to your local watering hole, where everybody knows your name. So what is it about Cheers that makes it rated as both the best and the worst sitcom out there? Well, step behind the bar, fill up a beer for Norm, and you'll learn that Cheers is full of surprises on the rocks. So let's order a round of secrets for one of the greatest sitcoms of all time, Cheers. Let's take a look at the ultimate cliffhanger we almost got. Cheers is one of the most beloved sitcoms in TV history, and it is still enjoyed today. Here are a few things you might not know about the bar where everybody knows your name, with a few behind-the-scenes secrets from the set. Number 10. John Ratzenberger created the role of Cliff Clavin. When John Ratzenberger auditioned for the role of Norm Peterson, he knew he hadn't nailed the audition. Sensing that this was his one big shot, John then asked the producers if they had a know-it-all character for the bar. He explained how all bars have one, and he went on to create the character of Cliff. John hadn't intended to create Cliff, though. He was trying to save face after a bad audition by making the producers laugh before he left the room. However, what he said amused the producers, and they began to consider the need for a know-it-all character at Cheers. They called him a few days later, and Cliff Clavin found his way into television history. Number 9. Loose lips led to the death of one recurring character. Jay Thomas was the morning DJ on LA's KPWR Power 106, when he auditioned for and won the role of hockey star Eddie LeBec. He was brought back for several episodes in order to give Carla a story arc, and Eddie and Carla eventually got married on the show. Eddie might have made it to the series finale, had Jay Thomas not taken a call on the air one morning asking him, "What's it like working on Cheers?" Thomas made several unflattering remarks about Perlman and having to kiss her, and Perlman happened to be listening to his show. Not surprisingly, a few weeks later Eddie LeBec was killed in a bizarre Zamboni accident, where whilst wearing a penguin costume, he was sucked into an ice resurface machine called a Zamboni, which resembles a steamroller, but made for ice. He really should have chose his words wisely when it came to Rhea Perlman, as Cheers was a family affair for the series actor who played Carla. Viewers will remember Carla as the feisty, upbeat member of the bar staff, who was skilled at mobilizing the others, and was bent on her own opinion. Perlman, who played Carla, had many family members on set. In fact, her sister wrote 17 episodes of the series and even produced as many as 26 Cheers episodes. Her father, Philip Perlman, was also in the show, appearing as an extra in 32 different episodes. Number 8. A Crack in the Bar. Cheers was filmed on Stage 25 at Paramount Studios in Hollywood. The set was designed by Richard Silbert. It was patterned after the Bull and Finch bar in Boston. But the Bull and Finch is much smaller, and the bar itself is up against the back wall. The decor, Tiffany lamps, and stained glass is true to the Bull and Finch. Director James Burrows had a lot of input into the design, which is why it was so easy to shoot in it. You could bring cameras way up into the set, get many different and interesting angles, and even get shots all the way down the hall. If you look closely, you'll notice a line that runs down the center of the bar. It's on a hinge, and actually the right half can swing around, allowing room for the right wall to swing back, revealing Sam's office. If you look closely, you can figure out how the wall moved. Now check the angle between the wall and the stairs when filming in Sam's office. Then check out the bar scene. The third wall of Sam's office is not shown much in the series. Here's a glimpse of it. And here's a scale model that explains everything. The miniature set is designed by Charles Brogden. Number 7. Location. Cheers is the name of the show's fictional bar, the perfect watering hole after a long week, or a long day. Boston bars are pretty famous for their party scene, and hardly any TV shows made a bar a setting for a show. But that bar itself did have a real-world inspiration. All exterior shots use the real Bull and Finch pub, which propelled it into a serious tourist destination, raking in enough dough to open a second location. And the place fully embraced its fame and renamed itself Cheers Beacon Hill. Although the interior doesn't resemble the show, they did build a slightly modernized replica of the set on the ground floor, complete with cardboard cutouts of Sam and everything. While the series was also shot on a set, the actual bar itself has a physical address, which is 84 Beacon Street in the Beacon Hill neighborhood of Boston. Tourists can visit for both nostalgia and to grab some great show merchandise and photos at the bar. Number 6. The show was almost cancelled after its first season. Cheers proved to be one of the most popular TV shows of the 80s and 90s, in the US and ultimately worldwide. This being the case, it's strange to think that the plug was very nearly pulled on the show in its very first season. Nonetheless, NBC seriously considered this after the sitcom's first episode came almost at the bottom of the ratings. Happily, the network had a change of heart, and after reruns of the first season drew a larger audience, the ratings went up, and then stayed up. By the third season in 1984 to 1985, Cheers was one of the top 20 rated shows in the US with approximately 19.7 million households watching. Viewership reached its peak in Cheers' fifth season in 1986 to 1987, with an average audience of 27.2 million tuning in weekly. Number 5. John Lithgow was the first choice to play Frasier Crane. Highly strung psychiatrist Frasier Crane became one of the best-loved recurring characters on Cheers. As such, it's easy to forget that Kelsey Grammer wasn't introduced in the role until Season 3, and only became a full-time cast member in Season 5. What's even more surprising is that Grammer wasn't the original choice to play the part. The role had been originally written with another actor in mind, John Lithgow. However, Lithgow turned it down as he wanted to concentrate on his film career, and had no interest in being in a sitcom. Lithgow would later have a change of heart, and would sign on to star in popular 90s sitcom Third Rock from the Sun. Number 4. A writer's strike forced the show to abandon a planned HIV story. Cheers wasn't afraid to tackle sensitive subjects, not limited to Sam's history as an alcoholic. The series won a GLAAD award for one episode, which saw a former teammate of Sam come out as gay. Cheers came close to tackling another subject which was particularly prominent at the time: the HIV and AIDS crisis. There had been plans for this to be directly addressed in the show, with Lothario Sam learning that one of his many exes is HIV positive. However, before the writers were able to get to work on this episode, production was halted by a Writers Guild of America strike. Because of this strike, the HIV storyline, which had been intended as a cliffhanger for the end of Season 6, was abandoned. Number 3. Bill Cosby and Ed O'Neill was suggested early on for the part of Sam Malone. As hard as it is to imagine now, the star of another of the most popular 80s sitcoms came close to playing Sam Malone. Early on in the show's development process, the now disgraced stand-up comedian Bill Cosby was touted for the male lead in Cheers. However, series co-creator Les Charles says they had two rules. No known names and no character's name as the title of the show. As Cosby was already a household name, he was out, but sure enough, he was soon headlining a sitcom with his name in the title. The Cosby Show ran from September 1984 to April 1992, and for the bulk of that time it was the single highest-rated show on television, comfortably beating Cheers. Of course, reruns of The Cosby Show are now almost non-existent, due to the horrendous crimes of Cosby's which have since come to light. Could you imagine Ed O'Neill as the proprietor of Cheers? The future star of Modern Family and Married with Children auditioned to be ladies' man Sam Malone, back when the character was intended to be a former football star. Ex-NFL player Fred Dryer and William Devane of the 70s sitcom, Knots Landing, were also in the running before producers finally offered the part to Ted Danson. Interestingly, singer Janis Ian, who penned and performed the 1975 hit song At 17, was originally tapped to play wise-cracking waitress Carla Tortilla, but passed on the role to focus on music. And said in an interview that, "Rhea Perlman is much better than I'd ever have been." Number 2. Matter of national security. You could see all 273 episodes of Cheers and still have missed one. That's because it came by special order from the U.S. Treasury. The Cheers creators were contacted directly from the Department of the U.S. Treasury, and asked to make an episode promoting U.S. savings bonds. Never once to turn down a customer, they brewed up the episode called Uncle Sam Malone, but don't look for it on TV because it never aired. Instead, it was only played as a promo at savings bond drives. Guess I'll just swing by one of those next time I'm in 1983. Number 1. It was the longest-running sitcom ever when it ended in 1993. Boston bar Cheers opened its doors for the first time in September 1982, and then closed them almost 11 years later in May 1993. The show ended with 275 episodes made and aired, officially the most episodes of any live-action sitcom up to that point. While other sitcoms, including the similarly beloved MASH, were in production for a similar length of time, none had clocked up so many episodes. Cheers would hold this record for just over 26 years, until The Big Bang Theory ended in May 2019 with 279 episodes to its name. It should be noted, however, that Cheers only holds this record among sitcoms produced in live action. Animated sitcom The Simpsons completely buries the records of both Cheers and The Big Bang Theory, with 706 episodes to date. Ted Danson decided when the show ended as Cheers was never cancelled. It was a massive hit in the early 1990s when Ted Danson finally decided that it was time to move on. He played Sam Malone for 11 seasons and was ready for his next adventure in life. He was also going through changes in his personal life that may have influenced his decision. When Ted Danson decided to leave Cheers, that pretty much meant the show wouldn't go on. Sam Malone was truly the heart of the show. However, the ending of Cheers would not be the last time Sam Malone appeared on screen. Danson and many other members of the cast of Cheers appeared as their characters on episodes of Frasier. When Ted Danson quit, the producers wanted to keep the show going with Woody running the bar. Even though this was the end for Sam Malone, it wasn't always going to be the end for Cheers. The show's producers proposed that the show could continue without Sam by promoting Woody to head bartender. However, when this was proposed to Harrelson himself, the actor insisted he didn't want to do it. Subsequently, it was decided the network should instead conclude Cheers with the end of the 1993 season. Thank you for watching that bit. Please subscribe and ring that bell so you can get more content like this in the future.